please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
We do have an exclusive story coming in now. We understand Finance Ministry is continuing to ask for a substantive relaxation from the Reserve Bank of India on its 12th Feb NPA circular. Senior government officials have said an additional 180 days before a case is referred to the IBC should be given to enable an out-of-court settlement. Sapna Das has all of these exclusive details for us. Sapna, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So this is in pursuance to what we have been reporting since last 2 to 3 odd weeks. Earlier, we had heard that government had asked for a relaxation in that one-day default period, but at that point in time, it didn't appear to be very, very substantive. There was also no clear outline as to relaxing this one day default period to how many days, 30 days, 60 days. So on. But, now we understand that it's not just about this one-day period that we are talking about. Basically, what they are saying now is that, 180 days is a normal period for a case to be resolved under the insolvency in the bankruptcy code. But before it hits the IBC, 180 days should be given before that. So basically what you're looking at is probably 180 plus 180 which would be like, almost a year, 360 days. So 180 before it goes to IBCs, and that will settle everything. The one-day default period will disappear. Banks probably get time to, work things out. Additional provisioning may not be required. As it is, the NPA norm so far has not changed. That is, the provisioning is required only after 90-day period if the default continues. So basically, this is a way of the government trying to lessen the provisioning burden on the public sector banks and indirectly on its own self. At the same time, also trying to make sure that, the IBC is not rushed with too many cases right now. But earlier on, last week also, there was a meeting here, at the Parliament. There was a standing committee meeting here. So the sense at that point in time that we had got was that probably Reserve Bank of India may not play ball. So we have to wait and watch and see which direction this really heads in. But the government has really made a strong pitch in terms of trying to give some relief on this 12th February NPA circular, and their effort as of now continues till RBI clarifies officially.
All right, Sapna, thanks a lot for that. In fact, Lata joins in now. Lata, your comment on what Sapna is just saying as far as asking for further 180 days for, resolution of the cases referred to IBC, and you're gathering something on IDBI Bank as well?
No, the flashes were there.
Okay.
Most importantly, on the Feb 12 circular, I was waiting all these days why this demand hasn't come. This 180-day period not being enough. Actually, what the Reserve Bank said is for all loans over 2,000 crore, if they are stressed, we give you 6 months. Either you resolve it, if you don't, you take it to the IBC. Now, what the government appears to be asking is give us not 180, but 180 plus 180 days, give us 1 year. This will, of course, ease two things. It will give more time for things to turn around. And more importantly, once a case goes to NCLT, you have to make 50% provisioning. In the first year of NPA, you make only 15% provisioning. So there's a vast difference in terms of amount of provisioning that banks have to put in. Now, emotionally and logically, I think the government, RBI should not yield. Firstly, the RBI may find itself dragged to court. The first 12 cases were dragged to IBC. After that, they came to the next 40. Now they have come to the next lot, which is cases about 2,000 crore. They are bound by law to be equal to all defaulters, and they're only spacing it out because of the bandwidth of the bankruptcy courts. So that's the only reason why they've spaced it out, and therefore sooner or later they will have to do this. The second thing is pushing back the deadline removes the sting to solve the problem. There are about 30 power companies, and you all would know these well. I just brought that list along with me. GMR Vadodara, Haldia Energy, Sasan Power, DB Power, the Korba West Power Company. These are not listed companies. Some of them are even state-owned. SR Power Gujarat Limited, Lanco Kondapalli, Lanco Baband. So many of them are, some of them are gas-based, and therefore nobody will buy them, even if you took it to the NCLT. So many of them, actually almost 42,000 megawatts of power, which is, a total of about 1.2 lakh crore, has no PPA. I mean, if you don't have a PPA, even if you take it to the NCLT, do you think a Tata Power or anybody will come and buy it? Why will they buy it if there is no seller agreement? So they will go into liquidation. It is going to be a hard blow But it will be a blow whenever you bring it. What is the point in keeping it on the bank's books and pretending the problem doesn't exist? So, I mean, I hope the Reserve Bank doesn't bend. I'm sure they are fighting with every weapon in their arsenal to ensure that they don't bend. The way to solve it is that state governments and central governments should give money to discoms to buy power. They should stop pilfering of power. They should stop AT&C losses. You have to strengthen the discom. You can't loot the banks and tell them that you continue to fund a power company, power from which is not being bought by the discoms, because the discoms are allowing their power to be pilfered and not paid for. The system's incompetencies and inefficiencies can't be made to paid for by banks. That nonsense has to stop at some point in time. That is what the Reserve Bank is saying. It's blowing a whistle, saying this waste of money has to stop. I mean, I don't know, it's a battle that they will have to fight with all their might. I don't see the government giving in very easily. I don't see the RBI giving in very easily.
Okay, well, Lata, we have a reaction coming in. We have Ashwin Parekh joining in to discuss this. Ashwin, if you've just heard us talking, what are your first thoughts in terms of the government's proposal? And do you think that the Reserve Bank of India would even consider it?
Well, I mean, you're getting the stance from the Reserve Bank of India very clear. I mean, two things the Reserve Bank of India did. One is, very strictly it has said that the provisioning norms must be followed. The second one is, the minute, the NCLT process was introduced, I mean, the circular said that they should remove the SDR, S4 and the other processes. So the provisioning part, the RBI is very clear in their mind. They want the balance sheet of the banking system to be cleaned up as much as possible, and the correct capital that is required by the banking system, the public sector particularly, that must be identified. So, I mean, I would certainly say that even if the government does come out with, a view on this, and of course from the shareholders' point of view, they may have this kind of a requirement, but the regulator, I must say, should hold, and he shouldn't really give in on something like this. There is no market for some of the assets. I mean, what's the point then in that case? Whether it's 180 days or 360 days, what's the point?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Parekh, for joining us with your thoughts. Well, one can only hope. We have to wait and see what happens, to what extent the Reserve Bank is willing to give in. But it's a difficult task. It is no one's baby. That is the problem. A power generator. The problem lies with the DISCOM. There are resilient state governments that have to be taken on board. Solving, stopping power theft. We know what happens in Ganesh Pandals, and we know what happens in Durga Pandals. Power is stolen all the time in India. AT&C losses have to stop. Now, who bells the cat? This is an administrative problem, and I can see the government, not happy with this proposal.
Lata, if in case this does come through, what would the provisioning relief be for banks?
Huge. I mean, in the first place, there is a relief on power companies. You will see those stocks rising. The more important point will be for, like I told you, the total amount of bad assets is 1.7 lakh crore at least, if you count gas-based and, projects without PPAs. I think 51,000 megawatts, let me assume that Mundra people will not default. It is Tatas and Adanis. They are deep-pocketed. If you count them, then it goes to 2.4 or something. If you remove that, then it would be close to 2 lakh crore. If for 2 lakh crore, at least half of it you don't have to provide, you imagine the relief for the banks. It will be huge. Many of them are going to post red for 2-3 quarters in a row. That will be saved. But that is, an existing stress that is not being recognized. But doesn't really change actuality, but yes, it changes the financial numbers.